No matter the sport, no matter the season, we remember forever, it seems, greatness.
Vernon Law doing the pitching.
Like a time machine,
Here at the Carbon County Ballpark, come watch the ladies at 3.
the Utah Sports Hall of Fame takes us back to those special moments in our lives. To celebrate, to see the score, and hear the final horn one more time. About the time the interstate highway system was introduced, as rockets began soaring skyward and drive-in movie theaters were fashionable, newspaper sports writers were at the head of the table and packed a lot of clout. And Utah had some of the best, like Al Worden. A ride down the sports highway with Al Worden was a ride in a limousine, loaded with scores, great finishes, winners and losers. But what few people know about this long-ago sports writer was his role with the Harlem Globetrotters. You see, Worden helped Abe Saperstein schedule, promote, and launch the Harlem Globetrotters at a time when they were an unknown act, traveling in cars. A very real, believe it or not, sports story.
Mr. Dirks was the baseball man.
And John Mooney, pictured here with boxing champion Rocky Marciano, was a true heavyweight behind the typewriter.
The old-time sports writers, let me tell you, at that time, they were the voice for sports. In other words, people didn't, there were TV shows at night for a couple of minutes, but you had to get the newspaper off the doorstep the next morning to find out really what was happening in the world of sports, whether it was John Mooney at the Tribune or Hack Miller at the Deseret News, Ensign Ritchie at the Standard Examiner. The list goes on and on. A letter from a fan in 1969, January.
Sports writer Dick Rosetta is in the Hall of Fame, right where he belongs. He covered sports in Utah from border to border for decades. His scrapbooks include a lot of big games and well-known players, but you'll also find the small towns and the everyday people.
Yes, the Final Four was great. Covering the Utes, covering the Cougars, the national championship football season. That's big. Jazz, Karl Malone, John Stockton, who couldn't love all that? But the people who were just ordinary men and women off the street trying to still have fun at a particular event, like swimming or golfing. Those are the small things. And I look back on it with the greatest amount of satisfaction that a person could have.
Get me out of bounds!
Wherever it is you find those great plays.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed.
Wonderful athletes, thrilling games, and unbuckled roller coaster rides of human emotion.
Touchdown!
You'll find their stamp.
Catch drop, incomplete, and a flag is thrown. Pass interference. Defense. Automatic. First down.
I can see it from up here, and he had him.
And long before an official makes it to the big stage, there are many miles on the road, lots of games, in small towns, in every corner of the state, in tiny gyms, where they still hold the door open for the officials.
My official. All right. Run you in there. Thank you.
Ladies, I'm Nick. This is Angie. We're going to be your officials for tonight's 2 games. Congratulations on being nominated captains of your teams. Green, take care of green. White, take care of white. And we'll take care of the rest, okay?
The reason why I put my officiating into every game is because no matter if it's a JV girls game, it's a freshman girls game, JV boys game, no matter what level of play it is, it's the game to those kids that matters. That moment when they're on the court, that's the best time that they can play.
On the line, green. It's very exciting for me. I love it. I love the court, I love the fans, I love the coaches, I love the smell of the hardwood. It's what I love, and it's what I like to do.
But anybody can call a foul. You can make one up if you want to. But I found if young officials found out what a foul was not, they had a really good chance of letting the game have some life and some breath and some rhythm to it, because they didn't think that officiating was about what you called. It was really about what you didn't call.
That's what we're here for. Just keep it moving and keep it under control.
We don't need to call fouls. We don't need
No, exactly. So, Steve,
I didn't think we need any more whistles than it did.
If there is a heaven for officials, we're pretty darn sure 2 Utah Sports Hall of Famers have their credentials approved.
My name is John Robison. I started officiating football in 1971. I refereed a total of 33 years.
John Robison officiated college football championships, and he has a trophy case of memories raked in at the top of the sports world.
When you get there, it's indescribable, particularly those stadiums that are historical, you know. And you think of the people that have been on that same field, been in those locker rooms. It's really quite an event to be able to experience that.
Looking back on his career, Robison smiles about the achievements, and he doesn't mind talking about lifelong lessons learned from calls he missed, like an early whistle that led to a critical fumble.
And so I just was waiting for him to catch it so I could blow the whistle. And the ball got to him, and I blew the whistle, and it went right through him.
And then there's a sideline conversation that went sideways.
And one of the coaches, when I went to the sideline, was kind of getting on me, and I kind of turned and said something. I didn't, chew him out or use profanity or whatever, but I said something. And as an official, the last thing I should have done, because he was very angry. I should have just listened and let him say what he needed to say, and then just continue to officiate. But as soon as I opened my mouth, it just accelerated the situation.
A wonderful life in many sports, over 800 football games on all levels, and a simple, gracious thought about what it all means to him.
I just feel so lucky.
Boo Bell reached over his shoulder, swatted the ball.
I'm Doug Toole, and I've been officiating sports since 1960. The kickoff in the second half, Super Bowl 32, and I'm right here on this sideline.
As a student, Doug Toole officiated junior high and high school football and basketball for $5 a game. Over the years, the pay increased. So did the assignments, taking the Colville, Utah native to the top ranks of the sports world.
This is a play in the AFC Championship game, Pittsburgh and Indianapolis. They caught this ball, went out at the 1 yard line, and they scored the next play to win the game.
Hastings motions into the backfield. Neal out of the shotgun. 4-man rush, he's going to throw it deep. And there's a man open down there, and it is caught at the 3 yard line and out of bounds at the 1.
There are plenty of photos and images of his storied career, but there's one more thing Doug Toole wants everyone who visits his home to see. It's about a very tough call made a long time ago.
My heroes are my mom and dad, and my dad turned down a waiver from being drafted and went to World War II and was killed in the Philippines in 1945. When he come home, my mom packed his clothes in the cedar chest, shut it, and went to work and raised 2 boys on her own. To me, no matter what I do, all the officiating calls I ever made in my life, I don't think any of them even come close to the decision he made to go to war, because he couldn't not participate. He said, all the young men are going, and if I don't go, I'll never be able to live with myself. To somebody of that character, I would hope that he'd be proud of me.
That Made in America pride lives on in small gymnasiums, in the grandstands, on the players' faces, and where good officials are working hard to make the right call. Gardner grew up in little Deweyville, Utah, with the salt-of-the-earth family. One of 8 children. 2 of the children died very young. The family home, 2 rooms and an outhouse. The Gardners would play baseball or softball on a well-worn patch of farm ground whenever they could. The family had a haystack of great athletes. 2 brothers were drafted by Major League Baseball teams, and the famous Utah Shamrocks came calling, first for Fern's sister.
I said, you know, we need some more players. And my sister said, well, I have a sister, Fern. She's pretty good, but she's kind of scrawny, but... So that's how I started playing with the Shamrocks. And that probably was the best experience of my life. I'd hardly ever been out of Deweyville, and you know, we traveled. I met lots of different people. That was good for me. And it was just a wonderful experience, the people I met and the places. And
Fern Gardner was a prolific Shamrock softball player for over 2 decades. Her statistics incredible, her success on the diamond amazing, especially when you consider how she got there.
a lot of people say to me, well, Fern, didn't you feel like you were cheated in high school because you didn't get to play? You know, there wasn't any girls' sports. And I said, I never thought much of it because my sport was softball. And I knew when summer came, I was going to have 3 to 4 months of playing against the best players in the country. It was good for me. I'm not sure I'd ever gotten out of Deweyville if I hadn't played for the Shamrocks.
Fern's impact on softball, the pitching prowess, the arm strength, the strikeouts, all locked solidly inside the vault. But there's much, much more to this story. Gardner coached for a time at Utah State University, and while at the University of Utah, she became one of the first female athletics administrators of her era. She was women's athletic director there and was named the coach of the women's basketball team. But there was no red carpet from the players.
It wasn't easy because, first of all, they didn't want me. They said, they actually wrote me a letter, the players from Utah, because they had had a successful year the year before, and they didn't want to make a coaching change. And they wrote a nice letter, and not a nice letter. They all signed it and said, we think you'd make a great athletic director and maybe a volleyball coach, but don't coach basketball.
But of course, she did coach basketball very well. Lots of victories, postseason appearances that were not there before, including a 1976 team that rolled out a 26-3 record, finishing 7th in the nation. And the women's basketball program glowed in the national spotlight. Yes, she did coach hundreds of players who she still hears from.
It means a lot to me now. Every now and again the phone will ring and it'll be one of my former players, and just to talk, no big deal, or a Christmas card, or just to say hello. And often they are apologizing for something. For us, I was so bad. I did some bad things. I said, do you think I remember that kind of stuff? Because I don't. I really don't. And they keep thinking I'm supposed to. But those weren't the important things that happened. It was just the fun we had, and they've made some lifetime friends.
It started on a makeshift field in Deweyville, Utah, when they handed Fern the ball.
When you did this, you pushed as hard as you could with that finger to get the tightness in the spin. And if you did it right, it would jump a little just so it got to the batter. And it was really a hard pitch to hit.
It gave her a love for sports and a passion for life.
I don't know, it gives you, it really, I've always said it and I've told people at it, it's what gave me my confidence to think I could maybe be a teacher or a coach. It just does something for you to have the ball in your hand. It's just how it is.
Though she left her birthplace long ago to find her pitch in the big world, in the end, it's no surprise that Fern Gardner still holds on to her humble beginnings. You see, in her mind's eye, that tiny 2-room house in Deweyville is where she'll always be, safe at home. In a small room crowded with awards, plaques, pictures, and articles, you get a sense of how much Liddell Anderson has accomplished as a basketball coach.
A timeout was called by USU head coach Liddell Anderson.
He coached at Utah, Utah State, and Brigham Young University. His recruiting was top-notch, and he still enjoys reminiscing about the players and the teams.
Cornell Green, Reed Goldsberry.
Take Big Z, the big man, center.
Liddell coached the Utah Stars in the Old American Basketball Association. He even had a hand in NBA Hall of Fame great John Stockton signing with the Utah Jazz. And he taught inmates at the Utah State Prison not only basketball, but important lessons about life. But what you won't find on the wall here is the story about what might be Liddell Anderson's greatest victory. It was one ugly season. Civil rights unrest was raging across America. At Utah State University, the basketball team was struggling. Too many losses and serious discontent with players off the court. Liddell Anderson was brought in to coach the team, but after the door closed and he signed the contract, his life changed forever.
My dad, who had just been hired for the job of his life, was put in a very uncomfortable circumstance.
They brought me in the office there and said, you know, glad to have you here and all that, but you got to do one thing. You got to get rid of Darnell Haney. I said, why would I want to get rid of him? You know, he'd been going with a white girl. I said, what's wrong with that? I said, listen, I'll cut this meeting real short. You get rid of Darnell Haney, you get rid of me.
Yeah, he has told us over the years repeatedly that even though this was his first year of coaching, this particular moment was the high point of his career.
Liddell Anderson stayed. So did Darnell Haney. A coaching legend was born. More than half a century removed from that season of turmoil, Darnell Haney and Marie are still holding hands, but they've never forgotten what they went through.
I pretended I was somebody important. It's the reason everybody was staring at me. I didn't meet anybody eye to eye, so they couldn't give me a look that I didn't want to see.
And he was told to get rid of me. He got to know me, he got to know Marie, and he said to them, if he goes, I go, and you won't like it. He was a father of 5 kids. His career was at stake. He risked his career to save my life at Utah State. There's a thing that we say oftentimes, a man is one who can identify himself. Once you identify yourself, and with respect, others will identify you also. He didn't see me as a black man, he saw me as a man.
A basketball journey over many decades filled with winning and some losing. Getting past one ugly season and remembering forever. A love story framed with the principle and dignity of a coach's decision.
I love basketball, and of course it's been my life. And I think the good Lord looked down upon me and helped me out along the way.
Oh, what a place. 50 years worth of sports history, over 200 incredible athletes. This ticket, I'm saving.